Amara was a final-year university student, barely surviving on scholarship money and the few tutoring jobs she could find. Her days were long, her meals small, and her shoes had holes, yet her heart overflowed with kindness. Every morning, she passed by the same street corner where a beggar sat with a torn cap and sad eyes. Unlike most students who ignored him, Amara always stopped to share her leftover food or greet him warmly. The beggar, who called himself Old Ben, watched her with quiet curiosity. Beneath the dirty clothes and matted hair, he was not who he appeared to be. His real name was Alexander Cole, a billionaire philanthropist testing the sincerity of human compassion. After being betrayed by friends and mistreated by opportunists, Alexander disguised himself as a beggar to see if kindness still existed in the world. One rainy afternoon, Amara noticed that Old Ben was shivering without shelter. Without hesitation, she gave him her umbrella and half her lunch. "You shouldn't be out here in this weather," she said gently. "Your life matters too." Alexander was touched, not just by her words but by her eyes, which carried no judgment, only care. That night, as he returned to his penthouse to clean up and rest, Alexander couldn't stop thinking about the poor student who treated him like a human being. For the first time in years, he smiled sincerely. The next day, Amara found a small note in her school bag that said, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." It wasn't signed, but she somehow knew it was from Old Ben. She tucked it inside her worn-out notebook and continued her day. Alexander, now dressed as the beggar again, wanted to learn more about her. He followed discreetly, noticing how she spent her free hours tutoring underprivileged children and volunteering at the library. She had no riches, no status, yet she gave so much. Later that week, Amara saw Old Ben struggling to lift his basket of bottles. She helped him carry it to the recycling depot. "Why do you work so hard?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Because some people need to understand the value of earning, even when they have nothing." Amara nodded, not realizing those words came from a man who owned half the city. Their friendship grew quietly, built on compassion rather than appearances. That evening, Alexander sent an anonymous donation to her university account, enough to clear her tuition fees. Amara cried with gratitude, unaware her mysterious beggar friend was behind it. One morning, Old Ben disappeared from his usual spot. Amara looked for him everywhere, but found only an envelope with her name on it. Inside was a note: "Don't stop being kind. The world needs more hearts like yours." Weeks passed before she saw him again, this time not in rags, but in a tailored suit, stepping out of a limousine parked near her campus. Her jaw dropped. "Old Ben," she gasped. He smiled warmly. "My name is Alexander Cole." The revelation stunned her. She recalled the stories of the elusive billionaire who built hospitals and schools under a foundation's name. "You were testing people?" she asked. "Yes," he admitted softly. "And you were the only one who didn't look away." Amara didn't know what to say. She felt betrayed, confused, and overwhelmed, but above all, humbled that her small kindness had reached someone so powerful. Alexander, however, wasn't there for gratitude. He wanted friendship, perhaps something more. Amara struggled to reconcile the image of Old Ben with the reality of Alexander Cole, one of the wealthiest men in the country. The man she'd shared food with now stood before her as someone the media adored and feared. "I'm sorry I deceived you," Alexander said gently, "but your kindness reminded me of what truly matters." Amara's eyes glistened. "You didn't deceive me. You taught me that compassion doesn't need a reason." Alexander offered to take her to lunch, not as a billionaire, but as a friend. At a quiet restaurant, he listened to her talk about her studies, dreams, and struggles. For the first time, someone as powerful as Alexander was not just hearing, but listening. He admired her honesty, her simplicity, and her refusal to be impressed by money. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," he admitted. Amara smiled shyly. "I just believe everyone deserves kindness, rich or poor." That day marked the beginning of something neither of them could explain, a connection that crossed the line between wealth and struggle, power and humility. Over the following weeks, Alexander found himself visiting the campus more often. Sometimes he came disguised, sometimes openly. The students were awed by his presence, but no one knew the reason behind his visits. Amara remained cautious. Though flattered by his attention, she feared being seen as someone chasing wealth. Alexander sensed her hesitation and respected it. He didn't shower her with gifts. Instead, he gave her time, laughter, and understanding. They'd sit on park benches talking about life, dreams, and fears. Amara taught him how to enjoy simple things: roasted corn by the roadside, laughter under the stars, the warmth of friendship without pretense. One evening, as they watched children play, Alexander confessed softly, "Amara, I never thought I'd meet someone who made me want to be a better man." Her cheeks warmed. "And I never thought a billionaire would call me his friend." Little did they know, love was quietly blooming between two souls from opposite worlds. News of their growing closeness soon reached the media. "Billionaire seen with poor student" blared headlines across blogs and newspapers. Amara's classmates mocked her, calling her a gold digger. She felt humiliated. Tears burned her eyes as she confronted Alexander. "You don't understand what this is doing to me. Everyone thinks I'm using you." Alexander looked hurt but calm. "Let them talk, Amara. The truth will outlast their noise." But she shook her head. "I don't belong in your world, Alexander." For days, they didn't speak. The pain of distance grew unbearable. Alexander realized he had to prove his intentions were genuine, not driven by guilt or curiosity, but love. He called a press conference, something he rarely did, and publicly acknowledged her. "She is not a gold digger," he declared. "She is the kindest soul I've ever met, and she changed my life." The world went silent. Amara watched the live broadcast from her dorm room, tears streaming down her cheeks. A week later, Alexander visited her campus again. This time, not for her, but for everyone. He announced a new scholarship fund for underprivileged students, named the Amara Foundation. Amara was speechless. "You named it after me?" she whispered. Alexander smiled. "Because your compassion inspired it." The students, who once mocked her, now applauded. Professors praised her humility. Yet, Amara didn't feel proud. She felt grateful. That evening, they walked together under the fading sunset. "You didn't have to do all this," she said softly. "I wanted to," he replied. "You gave without expecting. Let me give now, not because you need it, but because you deserve it." Their fingers brushed, and in that quiet moment, their hearts finally aligned. As their bond deepened, life threw them another challenge. Alexander's board of directors disapproved of his relationship with Amara. They warned him that it could damage his company's reputation. "Find someone of your class," one of them advised coldly. Alexander was furious. "My heart doesn't follow your boardroom policies." Meanwhile, Amara considered leaving for a graduate scholarship abroad, believing it might ease the pressure on him. When she told him, his heart sank. "You're running away," he said. "I'm giving you space to protect what you've built," she replied. They parted with heavy hearts, not because love had ended, but because it was being tested. Months passed. Amara excelled abroad, but she missed Alexander deeply. She often thought of old Ben, the man who had taught her that love isn't defined by wealth. One day, during a university conference in London, she heard whispers that Alexander Cole was one of the guest speakers. Her heart raced. As he stepped onto the stage, their eyes met across the crowd. Time stood still. After the event, he approached her. "Still running away from me?" he teased softly. She laughed through tears. "Maybe I was waiting for you to find me again." Alexander took her hand. "Then let's stop waiting." Back home, Alexander and Amara announced their engagement quietly, without the glamour of tabloids or luxury. Their wedding was simple, held in the same community where she once fed him as a beggar. When the vows were exchanged, Alexander whispered, "You loved me when I had nothing to offer. Now I promise to give you the world, but never let it change who we are." Amara smiled, her eyes glistening. "All I ever wanted was you, not your world." Years later, their love story became a legend of compassion, humility, and faith in humanity, proof that sometimes The richest hearts are found in the poorest souls. And somewhere in the city, the bench where a poor student once shared her food with a beggar remained untouched, a quiet monument to love that saw beyond appearances.